Good Tuesday evening, folks. NTV Chief Meteorologist Eddie Shear with you. Just wanted to do an NL weather briefing for you, going over a little bit more about Hurricane Gonzalo and the potential impacts to Newfoundland as we go into the weekend. As here online, there are no time constraints like I have on TV. So let's sort of jump right into it. Latest statistics or numbers from Hurricane Gonzalo showing it as a Category 3 storm. Wind speeds of 185 kilometers per hour, gusting up to 222 kilometers per hour. Moving northwest to 20, pressure 970 millibars. And on that image there, you can see the little dot in the center of the storm. That is the eye. And that is where the core of the highest wind speeds currently are located. And Gonzalo is moving towards the northwest and about to pass over some very, very warm water. And aloft, conditions are very good for the intensification of the storm. So actually, the storm will further intensify into what appears to be a Category 4 storm by some point tomorrow, with wind speeds of 131 to 155 miles per hour, which is well into the 200s as far as kilometers an hour are concerned. I can't do that math in my head, but it's very, very strong wind speeds. And then as we go into Thursday, the storm will move over some cooler water and conditions won't become quite as favorable for it. And it looks like it will pass near Bermuda as a still Category 3 storm on Friday, and then really begin to weaken as it moves over some cooler water and generally gets into more of a mid-latitude environment, which is not conducive for tropical development. So the storm, as it approaches, will actually undergo what's called extratropical transition. And that may sound like a fancy term, well, because it is a fancy term. Basically, the storm goes from being a hurricane to a regular old low. Will that make a difference in what we see as it gets up here? Not really. We'll still have plenty of wind with it, potentially equivalent to a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, as well as plenty of wave action and plenty of rain and wind. And so these are the types of things we may very well see as we go into late Saturday or early Sunday, depending upon when the storm gets up here, which there is still some disagreement on. And there's also some disagreement on the track. Now notice on that image there, you see the two sort of bars on the left and right side of the track. That's called the cone of uncertainty. So the storm could be really anywhere inside that cone. My inkling is the left is center of the cone, or left and not so much right. And I'll talk about why I think that over the next couple of minutes. Spaghetti plots. These help give you confidence as to where the storm may go. Each one of those lines there is representative of a computer model's forecast track for the storm. And notice there's a couple that are far east. And there's one that's out toward Cape Breton Island. I think we can almost sort of throw those outliers away and look right down the middle, which is very close to the Avalon Peninsula or Burin Peninsula landfall, or near the two, somewhere near the two. So that is my confident level right now. If we see these things start to change a little bit and shift, well, then the forecast will be adjusted accordingly. But as of now, I am fairly confident, more so than I have been all year with these storms, that we will see almost a direct impact from Gonzalo. Now, we may not. There's a chance it goes out to sea, but I think that chance is slimmer than a landfall somewhere across the island. And even then, the computer models are still trying to figure out where that landfall is going to be. For instance, this is the European model. This is actually one of the better models into the medium and long range, and it's been waffling back and forth between landfall between the Avalon and Burin Peninsulas, and then farther west, and then east of the Avalon Peninsula. And the latest run actually takes it just east of the Avalon Peninsula. And that means the highest winds would stay off of Newfoundland, but there would still be some very heavy rain, possibly 50, 75 millimeters in some spots. And there would be some gusty winds along coastal areas, but not the 130 to 140 kilometer an hour winds that would be found offshore. Now, another computer model, this is the GFS, this has the storm making landfall near the Burin Peninsula. And if that's the case, the heaviest rain would be across central and western Newfoundland, and the highest wind speeds would be to the right of the lowest track, which would be over the Avalon Peninsula and eastern Newfoundland. And I think this is a very similar track to what Hurricane Michael took in the year 2000, and I believe Igor took a similar track to this as well. And if that's the case, again, we see the heavy rain across central Newfoundland, the wind to the Avalon Peninsula, very, very strong winds at that, and high waves almost regardless of the track at this point. But if that's the track, then there would be quite a storm surge on the eastern side of the Burin Peninsula and up the southern coastline to the Avalon Peninsula. And so again, I just showed you two different models, and as you can see, there is still quite a bit of discrepancy into where the landfall may be. So there are still lots of details that need to be worked out. But a few things are becoming a bit clearer, and I'll mention those now. So there is the uncertainty in that there is the timing issue. Is it going to hit Saturday? Is it going to hit Sunday? I'm not sure. But we can basically eliminate Monday, and I think we can start thinking later Saturday and Sunday, if those computer models are correct. So that's becoming a bit clearer tonight. The track, it can be anywhere from the southern west coast of Newfoundland out to the Grand Banks, east of the island. My inkling right now is there's a better chance of the storm making landfall somewhere in Newfoundland than not. But again, that could always change. There's a lot of time between now and when this would hit. So there is still some chance it does go out to sea. And then the impacts, again, going to depend where the landfall is, from wind to waves and rain. And as we get closer, I'll be able to really determine who gets to see what. But we're still a little bit far out to start talking about that. But hurricane force winds, good possibility. Big waves along the southern shore of the island, good possibility as well. Storm surge, oh yes. And then some rain, possibly a lot of rain. And then you may ask yourself, why are you so confident, Eddie, that we are going to see the hurricane and it's not going to miss us? Well, I'm going to get a bit technical on you now, so fasten your seatbelts. What you're looking at here is a map of mid-level winds in the atmosphere, and also vorticity. Vorticity is atmospheric spin. So you see this here. This is the spin associated with Hurricane Gonzalo. And on this map, you'll notice that the wind, these are all wind barbs. So they tell you the direction that the wind is going. And these winds will steer the hurricane. So to the east of the storm, you have this big area of high pressure. So the hurricane cannot go that way because this being blocked by a big high. I mean, this thing is massive. And then as we look to the west, this is the opposite of a high. This is a trough. This is a big, deep trough. And typically, hurricanes cannot go boop into the trough. They can get absorbed into it, and that's a whole different story entirely, but they can't go into the trough. So you figure out where is the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is to the left of the low and to the right of the trough, which means right towards Newfoundland. Now, if this high slides a little farther east, well, then the storm may pass just east. If the high comes farther west, the opposite happens. If this trough comes in a little faster, it may actually pull the storm to the west because it can actually merge with it. And that's sort of some of the extratropical transition things that go on. If it's slower, it doesn't. But if it's slower, it's still going to more than likely hit somewhere on the island. If it merges with the trough, it's going to hit somewhere on the island. So, in my opinion, those are 2 out of 3 factors that will make it go toward Newfoundland. So that's 66%. So I think we at least have a greater than 50% chance of a landfalling hurricane Saturday or Sunday, or the equivalent of a landfalling hurricane Saturday or Sunday across the island somewhere. But again, there are lots of details to be worked out, and they will be over the coming days, so just stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been about 10 minutes of your time, so thank you. I will see you on social media tomorrow morning and on the NTV Evening News Hour between 6 and 7 o'clock tomorrow night, and on First Edition starting at 5:30. Until then, I'll see you then. And until then, take care. Have a great night.